Hi, in this video, I want to discuss how a new rule change will make it difficult for some applying for a green card. My name is Rodrigo Canido. I'm an immigration attorney, and I do videos on different immigration topics and how to get legal status in the United States. So if that's something that interests you, feel free to subscribe. First, I want to clarify this new rule change will generally affect people who are applying for a green card through family or through employment. All right. And what this rule is in regards to is the public charge. All right. So if you're not familiar with the public charge, that's basically a rule with immigration that indicates when you apply for a green card, you have to demonstrate that you're not going to be dependent on the government for financial support. Okay. You have to demonstrate that. Now, normally, or how this has been done in the past, is one would get a sponsor. Okay, and that sponsor would fill out a form I-864. And with that form, they'd send evidence of their taxes and evidence of how much money they make, okay, through their employment or through their own business, okay, and they would submit that evidence with the form and the other forms that the applicant would submit for the green card, okay. So that's generally how that would work. That is really, in my experience, the main document or documents they would look at to determine if one would become a public charge or would be dependent on the government for financial support. Now, with this new rule change that immigration is implementing, they're saying they can look at a lot more factors. Okay, so they're saying in particular that they're going to look at if the applicant has received um, support from the government in the past for being low income. So if they received some type of financial support from the government for medical reasons or for food assistance, for example, that's going to be something they'll look at to determine if you're going to be dependent on the government later if you actually get your green card. But they're going to look at a lot of factors. At least that's what they're indicating. So they could look at how old you are, how many people you live with, what your income is, have you had any medical issues in the past, right? So your age might be important because, obviously if you're older, you're more likely to at some point have medical issues that may require assistance from the government. Or say if you're low income, that's pretty obvious, right? You're low income, so, you're likely to want to get help from the government in the future to help sustain yourself, things like that. All right. And the problem with this is it creates a lot of uncertainty for people, the discretion, the ambiguity, right, of not knowing, okay, how would this affect me? How would that affect me? So that's why I personally don't like it. But that's the change that's coming. It's important to clarify that the people who apply for a green card aren't just people who apply through family or through work. Some people apply through for humanitarian reasons. So first they got asylum, or they got what's called a U visa or a T visa. All right, and many of these people who then apply for a green card are actually not affected by the public charge rule. Okay, it's just not relevant to their case because they applied under humanitarian reasons, and they're a different category where that just not important to deciding their case. All right, the government doesn't look at that in certain situations for people applying for a green card. Okay, so those folks will not be impacted by this. It's also important I clarify that if you're applying inside the United States or if you're applying outside the United States, it's going to affect you both ways. So inside the United States, they refer to that as adjustment of status. Outside the United States, they refer to that as consular processing, right? You would apply at a U.S. consulate in a country, around the world outside the United States. Okay, so this new rule change will affect both. The date when this is going to become effective is September 18th, 2026. So if you don't want to be affected by this new rule change, I suggest if you're eligible to apply before that, okay? And if you're not certain how this new rule change will impact you, I'm sure you've probably heard, and if you watch other informational videos on immigration, it's always good to talk to an immigration attorney, an experienced immigration attorney about your case to see what your chances are. because you're going to invest time into this, you're going to invest money into this. So you want to at least know what your chances are, right? And if you'd like to talk to me, my contact information is below. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you got something out of this video.